And hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoy the show. Well, we're going to highlight a wonderful theater that is based in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. It's called the Saybrook Stage Company, and Terry Carigliano, the founder and producer, is my guest today, as well as actress Maggie Gillette. And Maggie and Terry, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
And Terry, you're an old hat. You've been here before, so it's so nice to have you. But as you know, it's really important for me to refresh the memory of the viewer. So why don't we talk about you first? Tell us about yourself. Take us back into your background.
Well, my background actually is a teacher, way back, a lawyer. I'm trained as a lawyer, but I gave it up to stay home and raise my children. And during that time, I decided to go into teaching. So I really have a teaching career of about 30 plus years at every level of education, from grammar school, high school, to college and adults. So I taught law, mostly public speaking, civics, and so it's been a lot of fun. So we transitioned, and I as part of my passion of theater, when the Kate opened, way back, oh my goodness, probably 14 years ago, we decided to open the Saybrook Stage Company in 2011, and with a production of Our Town. And so we feel it's really kind of nice to be able to bring back a Thornton Wilder piece again, because we all still look back on that production with very fond memories.
As an educator, do you miss doing that? Are you still doing that?
I'm not doing that anymore, but I do miss doing it. I think teaching is one of the most wonderful professions you can have, and I think it's the most important. I do miss the high school and college age kids a lot, but I've done a couple of public speaking classes, either at the Kate or also at the Old Lyman. I ran one, and that's been a lot of fun with adults to give them that opportunity to learn too.
What decided, now many people will say, oh my God, she was in education, but then she became and founded a theater.
Right.
What was that transition like, and how do you become a founder of a theater or a theater company?
Well, let's see, that's a lot in there, but I think I've always had a passion for acting. I was, the joke is I was at kindergarten. I was the Cinderella in the first grade's production. So, I was just, I was always into theater. I loved acting. Even when I was in law school, I found a group of, Boston Bar Association members who sang. There was actually a Boston Bar chorale, and I was part of that. And so I've always been in the theater and in the arts, and just love it, have a passion. I think it was just something that we wanted to do. I always wanted to start a theater company, and when the Kate came into Old Saybrook, it just seemed like the logical thing to do. And the director at the time said, "Why do you want to do this?" But anyway, here we are. How many? 28 shows later or something. So it's been a great ride, and it's not always easy, but it's great. And the people we meet, and the people we work with, who willingly give up their time, is just amazing. And the people like our set builder, he's just incredible. Trevor Hartman, he gives up all these hours of building this incredible set, and certainly nothing that he would be paid out in the real world. We do pay our production staff, but it's minimal compared to all the things we do. And certainly like Glenn, Bassett, our director and our set designer, it's just, phenomenal. He has really such great creative ideas. It's just fun to meet all these different people.
And Maggie, what about you as an actress? Tell us about yourself. Did you decide as a young age that you wanted to perform?
I don't think I actually knew at the start, but I remember my first Broadway show was actually A Year with Frog and Toad on Broadway. And for some reason, I knew I liked it. I knew I was interested, but my mom had enrolled my sister and I, who's older than I am. So I followed in her footsteps through ballet classes. So I was always around the dance world in a very theatrical atmosphere. And I, of course, every Christmas did the Nutcracker, and Mom was involved. And I think I didn't quite know I wanted to do theater until at the age of 7, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And it started to take away cartilage in my hip joints first. So I remember at the age of 12, the Waltz of the Flowers was a little painful in the hip, and certain moves weren't quite right, but I think going through that process led me to theater. So starting high school and community theater, that was where my friends were, and I went right to theater, and then through high school productions and community theater, college was the decision, and I mean, Ithaca College became my theater, and I loved it, and it was a beautiful journey there for 4 years, and now I'm doing the thing, and I couldn't have asked for, I feel like, a better community to be a part of, because I love doing it because of the people and the connections I make. That's what makes it so lovely to perform.
So you are still performing at this age now. I know that you're performing together in this play, so why don't we take a moment and talk about it? It's called The Matchmaker. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about it.
So The Matchmaker is a Thornton Wilder piece that's actually set back in the 1890s, and it was the straight play that Hello, Dolly was based on. So it's the story of Hello, Dolly. And interestingly enough, in the play, the non-musical version of The Matchmaker, the focus is certainly on Dolly and Vandergelder, but also the younger couples that are in it as well. So Maggie is one of those. She plays Mrs. Irene Malloy, and she runs a hat shop, and then she's kind of paired up with Cornelius eventually. And so it's interesting because there's really a lot more characters than just Dolly. Like, Hello, Dolly, you always think of Carol Channing or things like that. But it's a really neat ensemble piece. And we've just had so much fun doing it so far. So, whatever.
What are your thoughts now? What part are you playing in the show?
Her name is Mrs. Irene Malloy, and you meet her as she is a widow and she owns a hat shop. And I think it's a wonderful farce comedy that it's hilarious, but I think it's the day you finally get to see these characters choose their own adventure. And I think that's the joy of the production, with all the chaos that ensues within the play, but it's hilarious.
And we should say that the play is performing at the Kate in January.
January, right, the 18th through the 21st.
Right, and the kate.org is where you can find more information about it.
That's right, yep.
Great.
Yep.
Now that's January of 2024. Does Saybrook Stage start to think about, now you perform in January and July, do you start to think about your July performance this time of year?
I try not to.
It's too early. It's getting through January, right?
Yeah, it's getting through January, and this is a big cast show. There's 13 people, I think, in the cast, and so it's a lot of work and a lot of scheduling of people, because people's lives are extremely busy now, and our actors are mostly volunteer here, so it's a lot. But the thing about The Matchmaker that I love is that as a lot of times people look back on period comedies or farce comedies and say, oh, you shouldn't do that, because there's things in there obviously that aren't the same in our world of 2023, right?
A little dated, but you got to update it with the time.
Right, exactly. And there's a few things that the publishers say you can change this line or whatever, and of course you take some of really things out that are just totally inappropriate. But I think the thing about period comedies that's so charming is that it really allows us in 2023 to look back on how crazy things were and the ideas that people had.
Sure.
And know how far we've come. So I think when we put these pieces on, I hope people appreciate that and know that. And we put things in the program, along those lines too. But it's funny because when you look at Horace Vandergelder, he's not quite like a modern day, Archie Bunker kind of thing. But he says all these different things that are wrong in today's world, but that's what makes the character so outrageous and so comedic, is that everyone's laughing at what he's doing, really. And so I think the piece is just a lot of fun to do. And the other thing, there's certainly a tie back to today's world, and that there's a great monologue at the end that Dolly gives that basically says that we have the choice to live among human beings or stay into our own little shell, and we have to make that choice. And I think in today's world, after COVID and everything, I think people are staying within themselves, and I think it's really kind of a touching moment because she gives it right to the audience, and I think it's a really neat connection that's made. So what are you going to do? Are you going to be part of humanity or not?
Mm-hmm.
Maggie, I found your website to be full of information. It was wonderful.
Oh, fabulous.
Enjoyable, and I learned a lot. Do you recommend, as a performer, to have a website? What are some of your tools that you recommend?
Well, for me, through my program in college, it was actually an assignment we had to do. And it was to, once you were graduated, you go to your auditions, and of course it's on your resume, so if they want to look any further, you have it. But I used Wix. It was absolutely fabulous, but I always say infuse your personality into your website. Make sure that from your colors and your layout and everything sort of graphically formatted, just bring yourself to the piece and make sure your information is easily accessible. I say just keep it nice and neat and clean and just you.
How are actors presenting themselves in today's world? We're past COVID, but sometimes it's still virtual, sometimes it's in person. How is the audition process for you?
I would say for me, it's still very virtual. I notice a lot of companies are asking for video submissions, but I'm hoping and I'm thinking this coming January, there's definitely more in-person auditions kicking up, and it's really nice to see the theatrical community finally being in person. I think that gets the blood pumping with the excitement is
Right.
to be in person, but I mean, the virtuals did what we had to do, and
That's
we
right.
all had to make theater happen, and we did it, so.
Okay, let's hold that thought. One of the things that you sent to us, which is special, is a salute to the Kate. And so what we'd like to do is play that, and then we'll come back and talk some more. So if we can roll that tape about the Kate, that would be great. We'll go to break, and then we'll come back.
People often tell us how grateful they are that the Saybrook Stage Company is part of the Shoreline artistic community, and we're so happy to be a part of the Kate and to be able to produce live theater in such a beautiful venue in the perfect New England town. But Saybrook Stage Company has given us so many things in return over the last 12 years. The friendships we've made and the professional connections and opportunities that present themselves to us just keep growing every year. We may run the Saybrook Stage Company, but the success of it is the combined efforts and passions of countless talented, energetic people. There's the actors, of course, but the people behind the scenes also put in hours of work that make it all happen. There are directors, set designers, lighting designers, set builders, stage managers, costume designers, hair and makeup designers, prop masters, and stage crew. And the local support of businesses in the area like the Gainty Group, who willingly donate rehearsal and set building space, and the Westbrook Ambulance Association. It's a labor of love for all of us. It's not always easy, but the rewards are something I never could have imagined when we produced Our Town all those years ago. We're so grateful to Brett Elliott and all the people at the Cape for their constant support of all we do. Each time we move into the Cape to build a set for a new show, there is such a warm feeling of community. If you're an artist that's lucky enough to perform at the Cape, it doesn't matter where you're from. LA, New York, Chicago, Hartford, or right here in our own backyard. While you're there, you too feel as if the theater's your home. Here's to you, Kate. I hope we make you proud.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I hope you're enjoying the show. We're highlighting the Saybrook Stage Company. And Terry, that was a tribute to the Kate that you folks have made for them, to them, about them. What made you decide to choose the Kate as your theater to perform at?
Well, I think when we first started this, I think we had a choice of whether to go with a bigger venue like the Kate or a smaller venue. And we thought, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. So we just figured, let's just go all in. And I think it just made sense, and it was all the stars aligned, sort of, if I can say that, to get us there. And I think it's just a great group of people, and you can't be any place better around here, I don't think.
I think what's interesting is that people won't realize that you are preparing the play elsewhere, and then you move into the Kate the week that you're going to perform. Is that a normal process?
Oh, for us it is, because we have no space, dedicated like a theater that you would actually build a set into and, get to rehearse on it and things like that. So our rehearsal space is given to us by the Westbrook Ambulance Association in Westbrook, and they are amazing. They welcome us into this space, and we have their second floor, basically, of their their building to rehearse in, and it's warm and it's cozy, and we can leave our furniture there. They're wonderful people, and we're really indebted to Greg Provost there and all the folks at Westbrook Ambulance, because they just say, oh, here come the theater people, every December or June, whatever it might be. But I think it's very helpful to have a space where Herb Clark, actually, we have one of his spaces in Essex now, where Trevor's building the set, and it'll be painted there. Our scenic artist will come in there, and then when we bring it over to the Kate, when we move in the Sunday before, we can assemble it, and it just goes much quicker. Usually, knock on wood, usually we're up and ready for somewhat of a run on Sunday night, just so the actors can get used to the set, because they've really had nothing but tape on the floor all those times. So.
And Maggie, what about as an actor? How do you prepare yourself for a production, for a play, for your part? How is it memorizing lines?
I'm not gonna lie, it can be very scary at times when you first open the script and realize how much you have to memorize. But I think when you do it a few times, you just have to trust yourself in the process. And I've talked about this with a few friends, but once you trust your own body to go on stage and you've done all you can to absorb the text and learn your character, whatever background work you want to do, and it is that trust. You have to trust the stage, the people around you, that we all have your back. But the one thing I do that I find is a little odd, I think, not too much, but I always make a Spotify playlist for my characters, and I've done it for Shakespearean characters, and that kind of helps with, I guess, instrumentals in my head, but it helps, I think, with the journey of my characters. So still in the process of Mrs. Irene Malloy, but yeah, making a playlist. But it's different with Shakespeare. I think that in itself is also more trust within the text.
And that is something that you like doing, was Shakespeare, as what I found on your website. Is that true?
I do. I think it's a fun puzzle you get to break down within the text and the iambic pentameter and all the secrets Shakespeare has infused in the text. And you get to choose what you get to pull out. Right. And then it's always a different character. It's never the same ones.
Is there a way that you choose what play or what film or television or commercial? I'm not sure exactly if you've branched out into other environments. What are you choosing to do as an artist? Is it comedy? Is it drama? What are your thoughts?
I'd say, at the moment, I think I'm a little bit of both. But I do have a soft spot for comedy, and being the fool and the clown that I am, I think that's always a nice little soft spot to land on, as being the fun clown characters, because why not? But Irene Malloy, I would say, is a mix of both. She gets to play with it.
And I should say that Maggie is our stage combat expert also for this production.
I'm sorry?
She's our stage combat person for this production. She just got certified.
Yeah, so I was certified about, I would say, a week ago in unarmed stage combat through SAFD in New York City, through a lovely company called Neutral Chaos. And I had to prepare a choreographed piece and also add movements around it, but I did Importance of Being Earnest, but made it like WW2 fight scene. So, that's the joy of it, why not? But we do have fights in the play, and we have to make sure our little movements, falls, and make sure everybody's safe in doing it. No knees are getting busted on a slide, or we still have them for the run of the show.
Wow. What made you decide to choose the matchmaker?
Well, people had suggested it for many years, and I just never had focused that much on it. And then when I kind of realized that it was the story of Hello, Dolly, And I thought, okay, well, I'll give it, I read it years ago, and I thought, fun. I thought, oh, I'll give it another read. And it just kind of spoke to me, and I thought it would be really fun to do another big cast show and a Thornton Wilder piece, because I really enjoy his writing too. And it's interesting because you talk about memorizing lines. I find it a little bit easier to memorize this text than some other texts that, of other plays that we've done. So not easy, but a little bit easier. It
has a natural flow.
It does. It really does. So I think that was a good choice, and we're really excited to do it.
And people have heard me say founder, producer, actor.
Right.
How is it for you to juggle the theater and also be the performer? How is it for you learning your lines and all the things that you want? Are you directing this? You said no.
I'm not. So we have a great director. Glenn Bassett is our director, who's also our set designer. And my husband Cosmo is everything, to the theater. I mean, he does everything. He's certainly, he's, sourcing props. He's going around in U-Haul trucks with me, and, we're picking up different things that needed, and I couldn't do it without him. And he's, just, of course, my best friend too. But
that's wonderful.
But the lines are great. It seems to be coming along for everyone, and my most fun moment is the first day that we are off book, which is January 2nd, I guess.
Words come.
And it's so much fun because everyone's just like, we're ready to go. It's just sort of like a roller coaster ride that you really do have to trust yourself and trust others, but mostly yourself, that like you've done this and what the words that are supposed to come out, and you just have to go with it and have fun. Just like you can't get off a roller coaster, can't get off the stage when you're out there. So
now the viewer just heard off book. What does that mean?
Oh, so off book means that you may not carry your book with you at rehearsal, but you can still call for a line if need be. So
off book meaning script.
Script, no scripts, right? In
No
your
script.
hand.
Okay.
So.
Scary.
Yeah,
A little bit. It's like your little aid, your answers,
Exactly.
and all your work is now seated
Yeah.
elsewhere. But
Right.
it's the trust in the other actors.
You do.
What
Yeah.
about stage fright? I certainly have dealt with that as an actor. I'm a former actor. Is it something that you two have dealt with at all?
All the time.
Yes.
Or what are your thoughts about how do you deal with it?
Well,
I think it's still an ongoing learning journey for me.
it is.
But I mean, personally, I always get it. It could be whether it goes in my voice or my hands start to shake, and I'm like, oh no, everybody can see it, but they usually can't. And I think a lot of it is breathe through it. It's you've got it, you know what to do, and only you have the answer. So once I feel like I can say, I know I can do it. I've done it how many times in a rehearsal with all the lovely actors. It's possible.
Right. And I used to say to my students who take public speaking, if you weren't, I would never go on stage with someone who's not nervous, because if you're not nervous, that means you don't care. And the only reason you get nervous is because you care about what you're speaking about or the play that you're in or whatever. So you want to have that nerve. You want to turn those nerves into positive energy. So I think that's the way to look at it.
What about those people that are thinking, oh my goodness, sounds so easy to become a theater owner and founder? What are your thoughts about starting a theater company? Was it hard?
Yes, it is. It is. It takes certainly takes financial, commitment. It takes a time commitment and energy, and it takes a lot of time out of summers or winters before before Christmas and the holidays and things like that. But I think what we all get out of it, and seeing what people the positive responses that we have from people about our theater, I think that keeps us going, keeps us all going. And I think it's important in today's world, especially, that people have that outlet, because a lot of people don't get see live theater a lot into Manhattan or Hartford or New Haven. And I think it's to utilize this beautiful, just incredible venue of the Kate, and to see especially like an old-fashioned show like a Thornton Wilder piece in the Kate is just magical.
What are your thoughts about performing at the Kate? Are you scared?
I think it's almost a funny, like, circle round, pinch me moment But I always knew of the theater growing up. It was always, my sister did a quick job at the Kate, so I grew up oddly having a Kate shirt and knowing it was a lovely theater, and I used to wear it, and I was like, now it's mine, and I still have it, and I wore it the other day, and it was a full circle moment of,
Oh my God.
I'm now performing at the theater. Oh my gosh. But I know friends in Connecticut, friends who are nearby in New England, and they know of the Kate, so I think to add it to my resume, that in itself is an honor to say I've now are going to perform at the Kate Theater.
We are starting to run out of time. How did you two find each other? How do you let people know that you're looking for performers, and how do you look for jobs?
I found it on one of the actor websites, usually where we find some auditions, and I found it on Actors Access, and of course I just submit and see what bites back, and I got the Kate to say, hey, come on and audition, and I went, all right, I'll go home to Connecticut and go from there.
And how about you? Where do you put out your ads that you're looking for performers?
Well, we put them on Actors Access and Backstage, and also I think it's a lot of the theater Facebook pages. We've also put things on.
Okay. Well, ladies, I want to thank you so much for being here. We are just about out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the
so much
very
for having
best. And again, The Matchmaker is playing in January
18th through the 21st.
at the Kate in Old Saybrook. Have a super day today, and thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank you for
having
having us.
And thanks so much for being here. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned into Arts and Entertainment. In case you need to reach me, you can email me at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Hope you have a super day today. Again, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time.